Hey, what's up guys? My name is Saurav and this is my YouTube channel Data Science Novice. So if you are new to my YouTube channel, please do like and subscribe. Your efforts are massively appreciated. So I'm back with a new NLP project in which we are going to explore a lot of things. And ultimately we will do some sentiment analysis on the Disneyland review dataset. And the link for the dataset and the IPython notebook is given in the description box. So before jumping onto the project, let's talk about what this project is, what we are going to learn and all that thing. So if I talk about the data set, it contains review of the customer across three different branches of Disneyland. And these three branches are in Paris, California and Hong Kong. This data set contains 42,000 reviews altogether. And the attributes we have is, the first attribute we have review ID, which is going to be unique as always. Next, we have the rating given by the customer. So as of now, I'm only doing this sentiment analysis, but you can try a classification based on the comment. Like someone has given the review. Now try to predict what would be the rating, like whether it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, whatever it is. I mean, try to predict it. Next, we have year month attribute, that is when the reviewer visited the facility. Next, we have reviewer location, that is from where he is. Next, we have review text, that is the comment given by the visitor. And finally, we have the branch he visited. So this is all about the data and we will explore more about it in the practical session. So now let's talk about what we are going to learn from this project. So first we will learn how to exploit the data and gather information for the business. Like we will write some queries that will allow us to target particular kind of customers to increase the revenue and so on and so forth. Next, we will deal with the data cleaning, that is removing the duplicate or the missing values. And if possible, we will impute the missing values with some kind of technique. Next, and the most important part of this project is text data cleaning, which is in my opinion what actually drives the algorithm. We have to be very careful with this because in tabular data, we can actually visualize the things on a very deep level or granular level. But that is not the case with NLP. There are some restrictions on that. Although there are some restrictions, but what we can do is we can visualize some important words in the data, or you can say corpus. And for that, we are going to use word cloud, which allow us to actually visualize the data in a better way. To be honest, it is one of the best technique out there. And we will see that how we can modify our graphs to look more better or more intuitive. Once we are done with this thing, next we are going to do is feature extraction. So by now you must be guessing that we have the text data, and one thing we know that machine algorithm cannot understand the text data. So in order to convert into a numerical format, what we do, we use some kind of vectorization. So once we have this vectorization, what we do is we use the feature extraction. We extract the feature from the data, that is we just have converted into numerical format, because we are not going to give it directly to the machine learning algorithm, because that does not make any sense, right? Because at the end of the day, it's just conversion from text to numerical format. We still need to draw features out of it. Just like we do in tabular data, we figure out important variables. Similarly, here we are going to use TF IDF, that is term frequency inverse document frequency. And if you don't know about it, you can follow my NLP course playlist. Using that, we can extract feature out of this. And once we have the data ready, we will try to do sentiment analysis on that, like classifying whether the comment is negative or positive. So that's all we are going to learn in this project. Let's jump to the Jupyter notebook. So here I am in the Jupyter notebook, and these are the libraries that we are going to use for this project. And along the way, we will import some more libraries. So first we have to import the dataset, and link is in the description box. And to read the dataset, we are going to use pandas read CSV method. And in that we have to pass the dataset path, and then we have to pass another argument, that is encoding equals to Latin -1. Else you might get an error, and that is Unicode decoder error. And if you don't know anything about this error, you can read about it on Stack Overflow. And this has nothing to do with the project. It is just for your own knowledge. I mean, if you don't even know about this error, you are good to go. So now let's check the dataset whether it's uploaded correctly or not. And for that, we are going to use head method to see first 5 observations. Now here we can see all the columns that we have talked about previously. Now before doing any kind of analysis like getting queries from the data, it is really important that we do the DQ, that is data quality. And that is something we do in industry as well. And when I say DQ, I mean whether we have any duplicate observation or whether we have any missing values like that. And the reason being, these things can influence the result and can be fatal to the organization. Now you can imagine that you are working for a bank and they ask you to do some kind of analysis and you did not do any kind of DQ, then you have duplicate columns, you have duplicate rows, and then you have missing values, and these will influence your results, so you will not be able to get actual results. So first we are going to check the number of missing values, and for that I'm going to use info method. Although there is another method, but in this case I am going to use this one because it has less number of rows. And this method returns many information like number of entries. For example, here we have 42,656 entries, and then the range is between 0 to 42,655. And then we have the column name, that is our columns, and then the non-null count, that is number of non-null values, which is basically same as the index range. And then we have this data type. So basically we do not have any missing values in the data. Next we are going to check the number of duplicate values in the data set, and for that we are going to use unique IDs because these IDs are unique, and if they are repeated multiple times, that means that data is repeated multiple times. And in this case the unique ID is nothing but our review ID, and on that we are going to use value count method. So now here we can see that for some IDs the count is 2, which means that dataset contains some duplicate values. Now we have to drop these observations from the data, and for this we are going to use drop duplicate method of the pandas data frame, in which we have to pass few things like subset, which means the column on the basis we want to drop the number of observations. Then we pass in place equals to true to make the changes in the original data frame. And lastly, we have to pass the keep, that is which observation you want to keep in the data. And I am going to keep first observation in this case. Next, we have to do few things before doing any kind of analysis, and that is to separate the month and year into different columns. And the reason being, we are going to use this information in our analysis. So first we have to convert the year month column into datetime object, and for that we can use datetime method of pandas data frame, and inside that we just have to pass the column. And I was getting an error while converting it to in datetime object, so I look into the Stack Overflow and I found out the solution that we have to pass error equals to this thing. Now we have our datetime object. Next we are going to create a year column, and inside that we are going to store the year information. And for that first we have to call the year month column, and then we call .dt.year to store the information of the year. And for the month column, the code is going to be very similar. What first we have to do is we have to create a month column, and then instead of calling dt.year, we call dt.month, and that's all we have to do. Now let's check whether we have implemented this correctly or not. Just call head method. And now you can see that we have added two new columns, that is year column that contains the year information and the month column that contains the month information. And now you can see that the year month column has a different kind of structure, and that is because we converted it into a datetime object. Now let's check the missing values. Although we have checked the missing values, but I want to show you something very important here. So we call isNull method, and top of that we call the sum, and we get the number of missing values in each column. Now here we see that we have approximately 2600 missing value, and same with the year and month column, that is because we have used year month column to grab year and month. And if we go up, we can see that they were not there earlier. So this happened while converting into datetime object. Now here is your task. You have to find out why it's happening. As of now, we are going to drop them, and for this we are going to use drop NA method, and inside that we have to pass in place equals to true, and this will make the change in original data frame. Now after doing all this DQ, we must check the number of observation we are left with, because it might happen that during DQ we might end up dropping a lot of data, and in the end we might not have enough data to do the analysis. So let's print out the shape of the data, And here we can see that we have 40,000, approximately 40,000 observation, which is enough for the analysis. Now let's talk about this analysis part. So I have designed these few questions, and using these questions, we will try to explore this particular project from business point of view. And along the way, I'll try to explain you how these query can help us understand the business properly, or how these query can help the business to grow. Now the first query is which year had the maximum reviews. So indirectly this can help us to find out the number of people visited the facility that year. So for this we can use value count method on the year column. And now here we can see the year-wise distribution of reviews. So here one thing I am assuming that if we have more reviews, that means we have more customer in that particular year. For example, 2015 has the highest number of reviews, that means highest number of customer. And one more thing, we can use sort values, and then in that we can pass ascending is equals to true, and this will convert it into ascending order. But for our purposes, this is not required. So what we are going to do, we are going to pass ascending equals to false. Now coming back to the interpretation, here we see that approximately 7,000 people visited in 2015. And with this information, we can trace down that what caused the footfall this much in that particular year. And then accordingly, we can incorporate those things from the past in order to maximize the revenue for the company. And in the next query, we have to find out the month in which we had the maximum reviews. And for this, we can use the same code, and we just have to change the column name, that is month. And with this query, we can identify in which month we can expect a large number of customers. And using this information, Disneyland can offer some exciting combo package for the local or the foreigners. It is just like in India, we have Flipkart Diwali sale or Freedom sale where we get maximum discount on different purchases. So similar to that, Disneyland can adopt these things for a particular month. In the next query, we have to find out the nationality of the visitor, or you can say that from which country we are having maximum number of customer. And I'm sorry, these questions are little vague. I just realized while recording the video. And for this, we can also use the same code. We just have to change the column name. So here instead of year, we have to pass reviewer location. And here we have the output for all the countries, but notice that we need to find out top 10 countries. So in that case, we have to use indexing. And here we have the desired result. So maximum number of customers are from United States, followed by United Kingdom, and so on and so forth. Now this query can help us understand the customer engagement, like which kind of customer or from which country customer engages actively. Now the purpose for this is once we have identified these kind of customer, then one can launch a new product, or you can say new services, or in this case new rights. So in its initial phase of product, company needs kind of customer that can help them identify the pros and cons of the product or services. So in this case, we need these kind of customers that engage actively. In the next query, we have to find out the customer distribution for each branch of Disneyland. And for this, the code is going to be the same. We just have to change the column name, and here we have to pass branch. And now here we can see that California has maximum footfall. This query is kind of initial investigation, and to actually conclude something, we need to ask more questions to the data. So as of now, let's frame it something like this. So this query can allow us to know the footfall for each branch, that is, which branch drawing maximum number of customer. And here I am assuming that more reviews means more number of customers. Now we can further investigate about each branch, like what kind of reviews they are getting. So if we are saying that California Disneyland is getting more customer, does it mean it is providing better services, or the customers are happy? And like that, you can ask many questions. In the next query, we have to find out the rating distribution, and the code is going to be very similar in this case also. So we just have to pass the rating variable, and that's all we have to do. Now this query can tell us the satisfaction of the customers in a more granular way. Like here we see that out of 40,000 customers, 21, that is almost 50,000 of the customer gave 5 out of 5 rating, and 1300 customer gave 1 out of 5 rating. So with this, we can conclude that Disneyland provides better services and customers are really satisfied That's why we have almost 50% ratings are 5 out of 5. In the next query, we have to find out the overall rating for the organization or Disneyland so as to identify how they are doing as an organization. And for this, we just have to take the mean of the rating variable. And here we see that it's 4.2 rating, which we can say that on an average, people are having great experience in Disneyland. In the next query, we have to find out the top countries which gave the best rating to the Disneyland. And for this, first we have to group the data by the reviewer location. And on top of that, we have to call our rating column. And then we just have to use the mean rating. So in order to get the mean rating, we have to call the mean function. And here we have country-wise on an average rating. And you can notice that it is not sorted. So to sort this, we are going to use sort values method. And inside that, we have to pass ascending equals to false. So once we have this information, we can use ascending to get top 5 countries. So here we can see these are the top 5 countries which gave 5 out of 5 rating. Now from the business point of view, we can do two things. First, we can give coupons or any kind of services to maintain the relationship with these kind of customer because these are our good customers. Next, we can do an investigation on the countries which gave the least rating like Ecuador, Turk, Andorra, etc. etc. And we can ask them what they didn't like about the Disneyland or there is something they wanted to be changed or anything. And this will help the Disneyland to increase the rating. And in the next query, we have to find out the branch which is doing better than the other branch. That is, we have to find out the average rating of each branch. And for this, we have to group by the data on the basis of branch. And on top of that, we have to call our rating variable. And then again, simply we are just going to take the average, that is mean. And here we see that California is doing better than the other two branches. And previously we saw that we are getting maximum number of reviews from California branch. So here we can observe that Disneyland in California is doing better since more number of customers are coming and their average rating is also higher. Another thing is that Disneyland in Paris is not getting good rating. It's even less than 4. And now they can identify the root cause of the problem by doing some kind of investigation or doing analysis of the reviews for the Paris Disneyland. In the next query, we are going to deep dive into the rating distribution of each branch. So first I'm going to show you for the Disneyland and then we can copy paste the same code and use it for the different branches as well. So first we have to filter the data related to California only. And for the filtering, we can pass the condition in square bracket or you can use a filter method, but I'm going to use square bracket. And in that square bracket, we have to pass the condition that is branch equals to Disneyland underscore California. And if we run this cell, we can see that the data set only contains example for Disneyland California. And if I call our rating, then you can see that we have only the rating from Disneyland California. Now on top of that, I'm going to use value count method. And this will give us the rating distribution from the California branch only. Now the problem is that this information is on much lower level. Although it can help us, but for our purposes, depicting them into a percentages would make much more sense. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert them into percentages. So first I'm going to copy paste the same code. So once we have this code, we are going to multiply it by 100 and now we are going to divide it by the length of the data set. And just be sure that we are not going to divide it by the actual data set length, but we are going to divide it by the length of the data set that contains only California example. So we are going to copy paste this code where we subset the data and paste it here. And now here we see that out of all the rating given to California Disneyland, approximately 64% rated it 5 out of 5 and 20% rated it 4 out of 5 and so on and so forth. So on the similar lines, we are going to get the distribution of rating for the Hong Kong branch as well. So I'm just going to copy paste the code and change the California to Hong Kong. Then we have to make one more change. So I'm going to copy paste it from here and then change it here. And now here we can see that 47% people rated 5-star to the Hong Kong Disneyland and 33% people rated 4 and so on and so forth. Lastly, we are going to do it for the Paris as well. So copy pasting the same code, and then we are just changing this Hong Kong to Paris. So for the Paris branch, we see that 45% people give 5 out of 5 rating, 26% people give 4 out of 5 rating, and so on and so forth. In the next query, we have to find out the branch rating distribution by the Australian customer. And sorry again, I confused the review with the rating. Now I have chosen Australia, but you can actually do with this each country and save it in a data frame, and after that you can plot a graph on that one. So first we have to filter out the data on the basis of reviewer location. So we are going to use same kind of coding that we did earlier. So now here we have to pass the Australia, and this will filter out the data related to that only. Next we have to call the branch variable, and then we are just going to call our value count method, and this will give us the distribution. So now we can see that out of all the Australian customer, most of them are preferring California, followed by Hong Kong, and then we have Paris. Now you can store this information in data frame, and this is something you can do for all the countries, and then you can find out some kind of pattern in the data. In the next query, we have to find out the rating distribution by the Australian customer. So we are just going to copy paste the same code. We just have to change the branch to rating variable, and that's all we have to do. And now here you can see that the rating distribution by the Australian customer. Now in the next query, we just have to find out the overall rating, that is average rating by the Australian customer. So we just have to call the mean. Oops, we are getting an error. Okay. So we have to change this branch to rating. And now here we can see that 4.3 rating is given by the Australian customer. So if we are talking about on an average rating, the Australian customers are giving us 4.3 rating, which is a good thing. So this means that on an average, Australian customers are happy with the services. And like that, you can find out for any country. So I would suggest you to go through this data set and try it with different countries like India, America, and all that thing. So these are the some of the queries that I wanted to talk about. Obviously, there are many queries that you can think of. And now I would suggest you to try some more queries. This will allow you to understand the data in better ways. Next, we are going to talk about how to clean the text data, which is a very important part in NLP because everything depends on that thing only. So first I'm going to show you how to access a particular review text. And for that we just have to call the column that contains the text. In this case it is going to be review text, and then we have to pass the indexing in order to get any review. So this is the first review in our data set, and like that you can pass any number and you can get the review. So for example, if I pass here 10, I will get the 11th review. So now for our purpose, we do not need all these columns. We only need review text column and the rating column. So we are going to create a new data set in which we will have only these two columns. And for that, we just have to call the data set, and in that square bracket, we have to pass the list of columns. And now here you can see that we have created a new data set. So next we have to clean the data set, that is we have to clean the text. But for that we have to first create a list of stop words. We need to build a lematizer and etc etc. And if you don't know anything about it, you can follow my NLP course playlist. I have explained everything there. So for the stop words, what I have done is I have taken the stop words from NLTK as well as Spacey. And these are the two libraries that are widely used in NLP. So to use them, we need to make few imports. So I'm going to copy paste the imports here. So here you can see that nltk.corpus, we are importing stop words. That is the stop word provided by the NLTK library. Then we are importing the wordnet lematizer, that is going to lematize the words. And then we are importing the spacey. And in the next line, we are importing RE, that is regular expression and basically used for text cleaning. Next, to use Spacey, we have to load the language library. Since Spacey supports multiple languages, we need to specify the language. And for that, we call spacey.load, and inside that we pass encore websm. That is basically load the English language library, but the smaller version. And make sure you have already installed these things. If you don't know how to do that, I have provided everything in the I button. Next, we have to import the, or you can say instantiate the word lematizer. Next, we are going to create list of stop words provided by NLTK library as well as Spacey library. And then we will combine these two lists to create a new set of stop words. And to grab the stop words from Spacey, we just have to write nlp.defaults.stopwords. Next, I'm going to print the number of stop words so that we know how many new words are being added in the final list. Similarly, to grab the stop words from NLTK, we call stop words and then we call a function word, and inside that we specify the name or language, and in this case the language is going to be English. And here also we are going to print out number of stop words provided by NLTK. And finally we are going to take the union of these two lists and store it as a set. So this way we will have all the unique words. And for this we are going to call the set, and inside that we will change these two lists to set, and also we are going to use pipe operator, and this will give us the union of these two sets. Next we are going to print out the final set of stop words, and here we can see all the stop words, and if I call the length method we will have the final number of stop words. So now here we see in Spacey we had 326 stop words, and in NLTK we had 179 stop words, and we took the union and finally we got a list of 382 stop words. Next we are going to create a function that will do a few things for us, like simplifying the text, removing the special character, removing the stop words, and lemmatizing the words. So these are the few things that my function do. You can create your own function, you can add many functionality to it. Since the function is quite lengthy and there are repetitive things, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy paste the code here and explain you which part is doing what. So here is the function. I have named it clean text, and it takes one argument, that is the text itself, and then it outputs the clean text. And inside this function I have defined the global variable, that is our stop word, which contains all the stop words. And then we have defined an empty string, and we will know why we have defined it here. In the next section of this function, we are simplifying the text by using sub functionality of the regex library. So this will find I am and replace it with the I am. And like that, it is going to do all these things that we have defined here. And the reason being, if you look at won't, if you don't do this, it will ultimately convert it into won and t, which is entirely a different thing. But by doing this, we are making sure that we are not introducing a garbage word. And also once we simplify the text, most of them are going to be removed from the text because these are nothing just stop words, which is a good thing. And also you can add as many words as you want. It's just an example. If you find any kind of word, you can add it here because it's just a base function that I have created, but you can also add more functionality to it. In the next section, we are removing any kind of special character, like if there is an hash or there is bracket or at the rate or whatever we have specified, that will be replaced with nothing. And also if there is some extra space, that will be replaced by a single space. And finally, if we have any single character or a single numerical value, it will be removed. So once we have done all these things like removing special character or simplifying the text, next we are going to split the whole text into its word, which is also known as tokenization in NLP. That's why we have used for loop here, and in that I have used split function of the Python, which is going to do this splitting of the whole text into its word. Then we are putting a condition, that is if it's not a stop word, go ahead and lemmatize it. And finally we are adding the lemmatized word to the empty string, and ultimately once we have all the word lemmatized, we are returning that string. So that's all our function is doing. So if you are confused about any step, just go ahead and watch my videos on NLP course. You will have a clear understanding on why we are doing something like this. So next we are going to test the function on a small text, and it is just to make sure that our function is doing the intended task. So we are going to test this on the 6th review. I have just taken this number as random. So this is our 6th review in the data set. Next, what we have to do is we just have to call our function, and inside that we just have to pass this data review and indexing with fifth. So I'm going to copy this one. So this may take some time depending upon the type of machine you have. So first thing that we notice here that everything is in lowercase. And second thing is there is no complex sentence. We have simplified everything. And the next thing that we notice that we do not have is, am, are, or you can say we do not have any stop words. So with this, we can say that our function is doing fine. Now what we can do is we can go ahead and apply this on the whole data set. And for this, we are going to use apply functionality of pandas data frame. So which takes another function as an argument. So we are going to make changes in the original column. You can create a new one as you want. So next we have to call the apply method, and inside that we just have to pass the clean text function, and that's all we have to do. And again, this will take some time because it is doing whatever it did earlier for each review. So the text cleaning is complete. Next thing we have to check is whether it is applied successfully or not. So what I'm going to do, we are going to check the sixth review again. So I'm just going to copy paste the code. And now here you can see that it matches with this one. So now we can say that the function has been applied successfully. So now the next thing that I would like to talk about is word cloud. So like our tabular data, we have so many graphs that we can use as a story. So that can tell us the story of the data. Similar to that, we can visualize the whole text using word cloud. So in word cloud, what happens is that we plot word based on their frequency. So for example, let's say a word Disneyland is appearing a lot in the text. So that word will occupy a greater space in that word cloud. So we can say that a word cloud is nothing just a cloud of words where the size of the word depends on the number of times it has appeared in the whole text. Now how it can be useful for us or how it can tell us the story. So now imagine if we are plotting a review where the rating is 5. In this case, the reviewer must have used words like excellent, service, fun ride, etc. etc. So in that case, those words will be bigger in size. On the other hand, if we are plotting for rating 1 reviews, what will happen is that we will have words like poor, long queues, etc. etc. And then these words will be having the large amount of space. Another thing that I want to talk about is always plot word cloud after the text cleaning. Because if we do not follow this order, then we won't be getting any meaningful word cloud because most of the space will be occupied by the stop words. So enough with the talks, let's plot our word cloud. So first we are going to define the plot size using matplot figure size method, and then we are going to pass the size. And in this case, we are going to plot a 20 by 20 image. Next, we have to create a word cloud. So we are going to call the function, and this function takes few parameters. And the first parameter is number of words. That means how many unique words we want in our word cloud. So I'm going to pass 500. Next, we have to pass the width and the height of the word cloud. So let's pass 1600 and 1800 respectively. Next, we have to pass the minimum length of the words, and here I am passing 5. So it will take only those words which has length of at least 5 or greater than that. We can also set the background, and in this case I am going to pass white. You can choose whatever color you want. And like this, you can configure your word cloud as per your liking. If you don't know how to configure it, you can read the documentation. Next thing we have to do is to pass the text data, and for that we call generate method on top of our word cloud, and inside that we have to pass the data. Now we are going to pass the review where rating is only 5. So we are going to concatenate all the 5-star rated reviews. So this is why we are using space, and then we are calling the join, and inside that we just have to pass our 5-star rated text, and this is the condition that we are going to use. And this line of code shouldn't be a problem for you because we have been using code like this in the query section. Next, we are going to set the axis equals to off, and this is for the static purpose so that we do not see the axis around the image. And finally, we are going to call the image plot method of matplot library, and inside that we have to pass the image, and then we pass interpolation equals to bilinear, which makes the graph look much more appeasing to eye. And this will take some time because under the hood a lot of things are going on. And now here we have our word cloud, and you can see that Disneyland is quite big because it has been repeated a lot. And here we can see other word, or you can say we see a lot of positive word like great, loved, attraction, like that. So you can see that we had a lot of text. We didn't know what kind of things we might encounter. But with this word cloud, now we have the idea. We have a picture of how the words are distributed, about what kind of word we can expect. And this is a very useful thing to include in our project. On the similar lines, we are going to plot the word cloud for the 4-star rated reviews. And the good thing is that we just have to copy paste the code and make few changes. So first we are going to change the background color. So here we are going to pass black. Next we have to change this condition. So instead of 5 we have to pass 4 here. So here we have our 4-star rated word cloud. And one thing we can notice which is very similar to the previous one, that is Disneyland is quite big. That is because it has been repeated quite a lot. So in the text cleaning function, what we can do is we can remove this Disneyland word because it is not giving us any kind of information and it is also overshadowing the other words. And talking about the word cloud, here we again see the positive words like great, attraction, etc. etc. And this is understandable since it is a 4-star rated reviews. Next, we are going to create a word cloud for the 3-star rated review. And the code is going to be very similar. So we just copy the code here. So first we have to change the condition. So instead of 5, we have to write 3. Now here we are going to modify it a little bit so that you can learn some of the modification one can do. So instead of background color, we can use color map. And in that we can pass the colors. So we are going to use yellow, orange and brown. And now here we can see a mix of words. On one hand, we have positive words like great, attraction. And you can notice the size has been reduced. And on the other hand, we have words like staff, queue, crowd. And from this, we can deduce that these are not used in good sense. And this is understandable since it is a word cloud of 3-star rated review. So we can expect this because 4 and 5 can be classified as a good, excellent, and 3 can be neutral, and then 2 and 1 can be negative. So like this, that's why it is happening here. Next, we are going to plot 2-star rated reviews. So we're just going to copy paste the code. So first we are going to change the condition. So here we have to pass 2. Next, we are going to change the color map. This time I'm going to choose Veridis as a color map. Now here we see a lots of negative words like crowd, waiting, etc. But we also see some positive word like attraction, great. So this brings us an important point that sometimes what happens, people highlight good things as well as bad things. Even if you look at the Amazon or Flipkart reviews, although they have wrote both negative and positive review, but the overall experience is driven by negative reviews, so they give low rating. That's why we are seeing some positive words because people might have highlighted both the things and ultimately they have given the low rating because their overall experience was bad. And finally, we are going to plot it for the 1-star rated review. So we are just going to copy paste the code and we can change the condition. And this time I'm going to use color map as Inferno. And if you want to know what kind of color map are available for use, you can always check the documentation of Matplot library. And here we have word cloud for 1-star rated reviews. And we see a lots of negative word and the size of positive words are reduced. That is understandable since people for this section of the rating did not have a great experience in Disneyland. So like this, we can plot word cloud and as you can see, they helps a lot in presenting information. And you can try to configure your word cloud. And there is one thing called masking in that you can actually change the shape of word cloud. And I would suggest you to do that. And if you need any help, you can watch the project on fake news detection. In that project, I have done this masking thing. Now we have come to the last part of this project, and in this part we are going to do sentiment analysis. So let's talk a little bit about sentiment analysis. So it is a natural language processing technique used to determine whether the data is positive, negative or neutral. It is performed on textual data to help business understand the customer sentiment about the product or services provided by that business. So in our case, Disneyland is a company and they want to understand the sentiment of the people about their product or services, like whether they enjoy the ride or not. So next question is how sentiment analysis works. And obviously we cannot talk in detail about it because it's a loaded topic and it requires a separate video. So keep following my NLP course. I will upload a video very soon. So sentiment analysis model focus on all the aspects of human behavior like polarity, like positive, negative, neutral. So whether the text has positive, negative or neutral words. Then it focuses on the feeling and emotions like angry, happy, sad, etc. That whether the review reflect a emotion related to angry, happy or sad. Then there are other things like urgency or even intentions like whether they are interested or not, like that. So for sentiment analysis, we are going to use VADR, that is Valence Aware Dictionary for Sentiment Reasoning, which is available in NLTK. So VADR is a model used for text sentiment analysis that is sensitive to both polarity and the intention of emotion. So talking about working of Vader sentiment analysis, there is a lot of math going on, but let's take an idea how it works. So consider the following sentences. The car is awesome and I hate winters. So we are getting the sense of feeling that the first sentence clearly conveys a positive emotion, whereas the second conveys a negative emotion. So based on these words and emotion reflected by the sentence, Vader gives 4 scores, that is positive, negative, neutral. And finally, we have the fourth score, that is a composite score. This is calculated considering all the 3 scores. And again, there is a lots of math going on. So that's the gist of sentiment analysis and Vader. Now let's implement it. So first we have to import Vader sentiment analyzer from NLTK library. Next, we are going to instantiate the sentiment analyzer. Now we are going to create a new column, that is a score column, and it will going to store all the 4 scores which will be in dictionary format. And inside that we are going to use our sentiment analyzer. So first we call our text column. And since we have to perform the sentiment analysis on the text data, so we call our text column which contains all the review. Next we are going to use apply method, and inside that we are going to use lambda function. And inside the lambda function, we are going to call SID, that is our sentiment analyzer. And we are going to use polarity score method to calculate all these scores. So in nutshell, what is happening is that SID is going through each review and calculating all the 4 scores for us. So depending upon the type of system specification you have, this may take some time because under the hood, a lots of things are going on. So now let's check the score column here. And here we can see that we have created a new column and it contains some score. So let's specifically look at this column only. And here you can see that we have 4 scores. So if I want to look at the score of a particular review, we can always use indexing. So here you can see that for the first review we have 0, negative, and neutral is 81 0.81, and then we have positive 0.19, and the composite score is 0.707. Next, we are going to extract the composite score, or you can say compound score, because on the basis of that, we are going to classify a particular review as negative or positive. So next, we are going to create a comp score column, which is going to store our compound score. So first, we have to call our score column, and then we are going to use apply function, and inside that, we are going to write a lambda expression, or you can say lambda function. So d colon d, and then we are grabbing the compound score. And if you are aware of Python dictionary key value pair, we are just grabbing values by using key. So next we are going to check the compound score. We are just going to call the column. And now here you can see that we are able to extract the compound score for each review. Now if we check the whole data, we can see that we have created 2 columns in this process. So depending upon what you are going to do next, what you can do is you can analyze the 3 scores, or you can as drop it and go ahead with tagging the review as negative, positive or neutral. Next, I want to show you something really important, and based on that your task will be to find out why it's happening. So first we are going to group the data on the basis of rating. Next we are going to call our compound score that we have calculated just. And then on top of that, we are going to use describe method to calculate the statistics. So here we have this data that we have to analyze. So first we see that count, that is nothing, just number of reviews getting 1-star rating, 2-star rating, etc, etc. Next we have the mean score, that is the average compound score for 1-star rated reviews or 2-star rated reviews, and so on and so forth. So now the thing that I want you to focus on is min and max column. and look at 1-star rating review row and look at the max. So the max compound score achieved by 1-star rated reviews 0.99. But what we were assuming that there is going to be only negative score, because 1-star rated means customer must have had a bad experience and wrote a lots of negative words. That's why we will see a negative compound score, but that is not happening here. And the same thing we can notice with the 5-star rated review. So the minimum score that is given to the 5-star rated review is minus zero point 0.9 something, which is extremely negative, which is counterintuitive also, because 5-star rated review means the customer had a very good experience, so he must have written a very positive review, but we are seeing something else. So your task is to find out why it's happening. Now the last thing that we have to do is to tag the review as neutral, positive or negative, which is going to be your homework. So the simplest way to do is just write a condition that if the compound score is negative, or you can set a threshold, then tag it as a negative. And if compound score is positive, then tag it as a positive. And if the compound score is near zero, or for which we can define a range, then tag it as a neutral. So that's all from my side. I hope you enjoyed this project. And if you are new to the channel, please do like and subscribe. And see you in the next video. Till then, bye, stay safe and wear a mask.